Don't worry. Can you use virtual reality to get people to care about the environment? How many of you guys have been in virtual reality before? Hands up high. Few of you. How many have been in my lab? A few of you. So the key to virtual reality is something called presence. When virtual reality is done right, it's not a media experience. You're using your body, and you completely buy into this experience. It's as if it's happening to you. So this demo you're seeing here, imagine that it was 2001, and you were me, and you flew to Washington, D.C., and you're presenting to a group of 500 federal judges and lawyers about how to use virtual reality to create crime scenes. I'm in front of a group, not this size, but pretty big group, and a federal judge put on the helmet. He was in his mid to late 60s, probably about 280 pounds, and we asked him to walk the plank. When you walk the plank, the room looks just like the physical room. We drop a chasm in the middle of the floor, and we put a rickety board that you've got to walk over. So when he was about halfway over, he took a baby step to the left, and we modeled gravity, and he plummeted down. Now, if you were in the physical world, how would you save your life? Anyone? You would dive at a 45-degree angle and try to catch that lip. And so what this guy did was he dove in physical space at a 45-degree angle. But there was no pit there. Instead, what was waiting for him was the sharp corner of a table. My one move was to dive at him, redirect his trajectory. He landed on the floor. He was okay. I'm not in jail. Nobody got sued. Everything's fine. But that is what presence is. I can talk about psychological details. It's forgetting you're in a physical space and completely buying into the illusion. And that was over a decade ago, 15 years ago. Now in my lab, I'd say once or twice a week, I'll have somebody crumple down to the floor or scream out or have a very extreme reaction. Because VR, it's not a media experience. It's a real experience. We have an amazing tracking system that tracks your movements to 1 millimeter, or 1/10 of 1 millimeter accuracy. We have 24 speakers that can move sounds around. We have a floor that shakes. We're now doing virtual scent, so when you walk up to something, it smells. It's really immersive. We have visits from heads of state. We have visits from CEOs of big companies. We have the military comes to visit us often. We really are a destination for people to learn about this technology. That being said, at this moment in time, the technology is getting very obsolete. So to your right, the two head-mounted displays were the ones we were using a year and a half ago. Both of them cost more than my car. Okay? The four on the left from Google, HTC, Facebook, Oculus, and then Samsung, each of them cost the price of an expensive dinner, and they're better than the ones that used to cost more than my car. So we're at this very magic moment right now where this technology I've been studying for 20 years that had to live in an expensive lab like Stanford is now becoming a consumer product. So when the people from these companies that I just mentioned, they come to visit my lab, and they're all building this hardware, and it's amazing, and there's this arms race. What do we do with this technology? They come to me to ask that, because for 20 years I've been building these applications. Where I've settled, VR is not free. This experience, it's really intense. Talk about the visual system getting fatigued. That's called simulator sickness. Talk about being so distracted you forget you're in the physical world. You can fall down. Talk about addiction issues. If VR is so good, do you ever leave the house? There are some real issues with virtual reality. It's not free. It's not free. So what I propose is we should reserve virtual reality for things that are dangerous, for example, flight simulators in the military, expensive, for example, practicing in front of a big group of people like this, how to do public speaking. Impossible, going back in time to see Ben Franklin when he was a zombie, I guess he was a zombie back then. Or things that are counterproductive, and I'm going to focus on that last one today, counterproductive. One study we ran, we had people cut down virtual trees. We brought subjects to the lab, and we forced them to cut down trees. Do you know why we did this? It turns out the toilet paper that we all love, that soft, fluffy toilet paper, it comes from non-recycled paper. An op-ed written by Leslie Kaufman in 2009 said, if you use that soft, fluffy toilet paper over the course of your lifetime, it's as if you're driving up to Muir Woods and cutting down 2 huge redwoods itself, by yourself. Now, this article comes out in 2009. It's brilliantly written. Doesn't change anyone's behavior. Here in the crunchiest place on the planet, San Francisco Bay Area, you go to the store, they don't even sell recycled toilet paper at most places. If they do, it's hidden. So we ran a study. We brought everyone like you in. We put the helmet on them. We forced them to cut down 2 trees, haptic device shaking their hands. When the tree fell, it boomed their legs up. We then followed their paper use. Now, the control condition was watching a video or reading a story about cutting down a tree. All 3 groups said after the study, they were more likely to save paper. But we tracked the behavior of the virtual reality group. The VR group reduced their actual paper use in the physical world by 20%. Neither of the other groups changed. So what we discovered is that with environmental behavior, talk is cheap. We all want to be green, but it's really hard to pick through your garbage and do the picking apart the recycling. So think about VR as a really neat lever to change those very hard to change behaviors. How many of you guys have been to Italy? Good. How about Naples? How about Ischia, a tiny little island off the coast of Naples? 7 of you. So if you've been to Ischia, have you been to this castle? Okay, if you've been to that castle, there's 3 of you. Have you dove this reef right here next to the castle? If I could bring all of you in this room and take you to this reef, we would solve this particularly troublesome quandary. Why is that almost all scientists, 99.9% of scientists, believe climate change is a serious threat, but a substantial portion of the US population does not? An answer is because scientists have direct experience with the environment. Now, Dr. Jane Lubchenco was President Obama's the head of the NOAA for 4 years. In that 4-year period, she saw more natural disaster that had ever occurred in any 4-year window in US history due to climate change. She had a great line when she came to visit the Stanford Woods Institute in 2013. She said, when I visit these areas that have been ravaged by floods, for example, Hurricane Sandy, it doesn't matter if it's a red state or a blue state, these people believe in climate change. Now, in VR, disaster is free. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt the world. It can happen at the touch of a button. So let's go back to Ischia. Ischia has special volcanic vents that release pure carbon dioxide. This is very rare. It's a crystal ball to show you how all of the oceans are going to look like in the future. It models how, for example, all the oceans will look like by the year 2100 because 30% of human-produced carbon dioxide gets absorbed by the ocean. So Theo McKelly, my colleague here at Stanford, has been studying this reef, publishing in major science journals, saying by the year 2100, all the oceans are going to look like this, and this little area of Ischia is a crystal ball to show the future. Now, if you read about what's called ocean acidification, what Theo McKelly is studying, in a textbook, you get a diagram like this. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is the US government's website. But how does Theo learn about it? She goes scuba diving. This is her former student, Christy Croker, and they do species counts. And they discover that if you go close to these vents that simulates the future of the oceans, that there's no longer any biodiversity, or that the snails have got damaged shells, or there's no coral anymore. They learn it organically and experientially. We have built a field trip. It's a fully contained scientific journey where you go to Ischia, you become a scientist, you explore, and you organically learn that all of our oceans by the year 2100 are going to lack biodiversity. You eventually see on your left is a healthy reef, see the healthy coral, see the red instances of different species, lots of diversity. By the year 2100, all the world's oceans are going to look like that. Lots of algae, no diversity. This is what scientists are publishing all over the place. As a psychologist, I run experiments, and we're about to publish a paper in the next 2 weeks that shows that learning about acidification by doing an immersive field trip is more effective than any other learning tool we've tried. So that's great. But what's great about Stanford is we're allowed to face out, and we're allowed to try to change the world. And so what we've been doing is outreach. So in 2015, I gave a talk at the Tribeca Film Festival to a group this size, and I asked the crowd, how many of you guys have heard of ocean acidification? And I got about 15 people out of 1,000 raise their hand. This year, a month ago, in April, at Tribeca, they invited me to set up an arcade, 2 separate full booths where you got to become Theo McKelly, dive around, and learn about acidification. For 7 days straight, 12 hours a day, we had a line of 100 people out the door. They wanted to learn about climate change. So it's a really neat lever to use outreach. Google Expeditions is a program where Google goes out and they descend upon a school and they bring virtual reality to kids for learning. And we just hit the 1 million mark, we being Google, they just hit the 1 million mark. 1 million children have been in virtual reality learning. One of the staples of the learning material they give is what we've built for them about ocean acidification. So my plea to this crowd is, decision makers in this group, you're a bunch of Stanford alumni, help me tell the world in VR about acidification. Thank you very much.